What's up, fam? It's the Broke Capitalist coming at you with a new gem today. I came across this video a while back. As of the date I captured it, it had 1 million views. It's been up almost a year, almost the anniversary of it. This young lady said some very insightful things, and I like to share those insights with you and give you a few insights of my own. Here we go.
The point of me making this live was basically, I realized today that I have nothing to offer a man. Nothing. And I feel like it took, number one, it took me 32 years to realize it, because I just found that out today. So I was today years old when I realized it. And then it took me a lot of pride swallowing to be able to admit it. I'm going to tell you why I feel the way I feel. This is not based off anyone else. This is only based off myself. But I just wanted to share it just in case it may help somebody else. I feel like I don't have anything to offer to a man because a man asked me what I had to offer him. And it was the way he asked that made me realize that I don't. He simply stated, I realize that you're single, but tell me what would I benefit from having you as my woman? Now, outside of the basics, like, oh, I look nice, I can cook, I work, I didn't have nothing else to offer. And the reason I realized that I didn't is because I got to thinking about myself. And all I've been doing for so many years is just working and taking care of kids. I don't know necessarily what I'm into. So there goes hobbies. I'm not necessarily sure my feminine level of energy, because majority of my relationships, I wore the pants. So how can you, as a woman, offer to be a woman to a man if you've never fully been a woman? I am a woman because I'm a female, but I'm talking about like actually be a woman, like to a man. I've never experienced that, so I don't know what that feels like. So I can't honestly say that I have anything to offer as far as a woman outside of just being a woman. So that means all I really do have to offer is some pussy, because I'm a woman and we have
What she actually has to offer is some very good insights and some self-reflection. But I want to talk about how she got to where she is and how she represents, in my opinion, a major shift in family in this country. Now, although she's an African-American woman, and if you're not African-American, or if you grew up in the suburbs or on a farm somewhere and you're like Caucasian, Asian, other, whatever, you may, that's not me. I can't relate to her. If you can't relate to her, great. But your kids may be able to relate to her. Why? Because what has caused this young lady to come to what has caused her to be in the situation she's in is a set of values and a set of beliefs that have been pushed on the African-American community, specifically after the 60s or during the 60s, right? And I've mentioned this on this channel several times, and I have to mention it again. So it's out of a book called The Future Once Happened Here, and I'm going to read for it again because I'm going to beat this until it can't be beaten anymore. So African American Teachers Association, this was back in the 60s, concluded for all African Americans that individualism and personal merit was a myth perpetuated by whites to create Black versions of white middle class or Black Anglo-Saxons. So what comes with that Black middle class? What were the values of the middle class? Let's say back in the 60s and 50s, it was family, God, and country, right? So if you had I'm in my 50s, so I think about my great-grandparents and my grandmother, who's still around, right? My great-grandfather was around. He worked his butt off. My great-grandmother stayed at home, raised 9 kids during the Depression, right? And there's, the value of your money ties into this, right? So during the Depression, people were raising 9 kids. I'm going to say it again. During the Depression, people were able to raise 9 kids. Now, of course, 9 of those kids didn't get BMWs when they turned 16, but they survived, all 9 of them, right? I'll go on a little bit further here. So since, you know, individualism and personal merit ain't gonna cut it with Black folks, they decided they needed an alternative Black value system based on principles of collective work and responsibility, basically socialism. All right, cooperative economics, communism, and unity, giftedness, and Black children could be measured by a willingness to challenge authority, not measured by your aptitude in math, science, right? But your willingness to put the finger to the man, right? Bottled up in this thinking is that a huge word here is equality, and that starts in the home. So you see this, we call it the welfare state, where the state starts to replace the husband. Well, the state starts to replace the father, right? And this young lady says, right now, if she goes on to say, she's got kids and she's given all of her nurturing capabilities to her children. And then if the dude comes in and he wants a little nurturing after 9 to 5, her tank's on E, right? But back in the day, he goes out and works. She's able to stay at home and raise her kids and have a little nurturing left in the tank for the husband who comes home. I'm not advocating for women staying at home and in the kitchen. What I'm trying to do is point out that women didn't always go out and work for strangers called shareholders, right? And leave their kids at home or with some stranger. That wasn't always the case. And why is that the case now, where she's in a situation where she's out working, although she has kids, right? And there's no father in the home for those kids. You can't control. She's a part of something that's happening that happened in the African American community, and it's happening in the broader American community, right? It's this indoctrination in the community with socialist values, Marxist values, where everybody's equal. There's no, down with the patriarchy, right? Look, you wouldn't be down with the patriarchy if, and I'm gonna make a broad jump here, hopefully you guys can jump over with me. You wouldn't be so concerned about working outside the home if one salary would allow you to stay at home and raise your kids. Now, I'm not a woman. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not going to claim I am, as some people who look like me with beards do. But throughout history, if I'm not mistaken, women who want children would prefer to stay at home with the children. I mean, isn't that a preference? Right? I mean, right? So if you are in an environment where that's only an option for the ultra wealthy, right? Or like Mennonites and, very religious people like, not the Mennonites, but, the people on the horse and buggy in Ohio somewhere, it'll come to me. But unless you're stout, devout Christians or devout Jews or whatever, like where your orthodoxy want to allow women to go out into the world and earn a living. But if you're like everybody else and you're a woman with children, I can only assume that you would prefer to be able to raise your own kids, to have them be productive members of society so that they don't end up in jail or killed because they're breaking into somebody's house. This is an assumption I'm making. Hopefully it's not a broad leap, but you can't do that today. Why? Inflation. Say it all the time. Mike Brady of the Brady Bunch. He, on one salary in Southern California, had a brand new house, raised his 3 boys, some other lady's 3 girls, married that lady, and had a live-in maid on one salary. And he wasn't like Elon Musk. He was an average architect. He didn't own the firm. He was an architect and was able, that one salary, was able to do that. Now you need 2 salaries for one person. So her plight, so to speak, is not, she didn't create this. She's been affected by what people before her put into action back in the 60s and are currently still doing. So this was limited. This was like a petri dish experiment back in the 60s. Okay, we got a group of people in a confined space, urban America. We're going to push this agenda, socialist Marxism. We're going to destroy the values of capitalism, independent liberty, and individualism, liberty, and individual responsibility. We're going to, poo-poo that and push the socialist Marxist ideology on my generation without me and my parents knowing, right? So I'm assuming she's 30 something. I got 20 years on her. I could probably be her father. So the generation under us has just been more and more indoctrinated with this crap. Now, if you don't look like her, why is this important to you? If you live in the middle of Iowa somewhere, why is this important to you? Because that ideology has escaped urban America. And now you have people like this.
As an educator, I'm constantly worried if I am part of the problem. What do I mean by that? Well, public education is an institution that upholds lots of problematic systems in our society, like white supremacy and misogyny and colonization, etc. In my role as an educator, I try to undermine that BS in my classroom as much as I possibly can. I teach high school English, and the white supremacy runs deep. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at how we write essays. Start with an introduction that includes a thesis. Always cite your sources. Use transition words like however and therefore. These are all made up rules. They're arbitrary. They were created by Westerners in power. In linguistic justice, April Baker Bell calls this the language of respectability, or the language of power. Which got me thinking, what if I started my school year with a unit honoring how we talk rather than teaching students how to write properly? So this is the start of my series on teaching linguistics in high school.
She's basically saying she's going to teach Ebonics in high school. The author she depicts, Ms. Bell, is responsible for a lot of this CRT crap. Is socialist Marxism, and I mean, it's at the root of it, right? And these are the people teaching your kids. I love how people talk about colonization, like, only white people went out and colonized people. It failed to mention that, let's say the Zulus, if you weren't a Zulu, would you want to be their neighbor? If you don't know the answer to that, you need to go look up history. If you were not an Inca and you were one of their neighbors, would you want to be around? I don't think you would. So colonization isn't limited to Europeans. They were just the last one to really do it on a mass scale, right? So this is human nature, not something to do with white supremacy. And this lady who's teaching maybe your kids, all she's doing is creating a class of people who will be not unemployed, but unemployable. Period. There's no Klansman. I'll say it all the time. When I was in junior high acting a fool, there was no Klansman telling me not to pick up that book and study math. There was no Klansman outside my room talking about, hey, you better not write that sentence correctly. There were Black socialists telling me that all of my current problems and future problems was caused by somebody I didn't know who wasn't there. Some white guy, right? Who, if he may have been born 400 years ago and he's still calling you problems, or he's he's around, but he's not in the state. He's somewhere off somewhere in a basement cooking up some plan to keep you down. And what happened? You get a whole generation and another generation of people who look like me, instead of concentrating on gaining skills that other people are willing to pay for, you're gaining the ability to be the victim. Who can be the biggest victim? African American studies, women's studies. What, unless you're teaching it, what does that provide what does that provide society? Everything you know in your degree, African American studies, women's studies, is on an iPhone, is on the internet. How valuable is that degree? It's not. And now you're broke, poor, unemployed, and you want to who? You want to blame who? So for those out there who are listening and you get it, please like, share, and subscribe. If you think someone could use this, please share it with them, start a conversation. But most importantly, prepare for what's coming. Prepare for what's coming, because these teachers are teaching, you know, our education system has taught generations of kids that they're all victims. Victims aren't going to run the show. They're going to be ran by people who don't believe they're victims. So you got more and more people believing they're victims, more and more people believing that the, you know, personal merit is BS. Guess what's going to happen to those people? They're going to be unemployable. And some of those people might be your kids. And I hope your retirement fund, I don't even want to go there, because if you think you can retire, good luck, buddy. But I'm gonna end it with this. If you can control the narrative, i.e., every white person you don't know is a racist, you can create a culture, right? A culture of victimization. And you can get the people in those cultures to do your political bidding by voting for you. Vote for me. I'm gonna protect you from the evil races, right? That I've created out of thin air. Of course, there's races out there. There'll always be races. Trust me. Read my book, Our Two Societies. You have Japanese people who are being racist against other Japanese people because 400 years ago, their ancestors did stuff with the buried the dead. It's called the Barackman. So if you got people who look identical to one another, speak the same language, live in the same area, and they are being discriminated against, what makes you think you'll end racism? It ain't about ending racism. It's about thriving despite you have racist idiots among you. And with that, I'm out. Peace, like, share, subscribe. Go check out the website, brokecapitalist.com. Peace. I'm out.